In the dim auction hall, a painting on an easel is introduced as Falling Leaves, the final work of the late artist Chobok Kim. The host describes it as a piece painted during a long illness, with bold brushwork and a sensitivity so clear that many consider it a landmark in Korean oil painting. At the center of the pale canvas, a single red leaf hangs over still water, small but impossible to ignore. The audience is told that the artist's family kept the work for years, before finally entrusting it to this auction. A woman in the crowd stares at the painting and quietly says she thinks she has seen it in a museum before. The man beside her calmly explains that the museum version was an imitation and that this one is the original. Startled, she asks how something like that can even be sold. With a faint smile, he tells her this is one of those places, so she should be careful with what she says. He adds that people can disappear without a trace here, leaving her visibly shaken for a moment before he chuckles and says he is only joking. A huge number flashes onto the screen as the bidding opens at 1 billion won. Hands move over phones across the room, and the bids begin rising almost immediately. The amount climbs in sharp jumps until Falling Leaves finally closes at 2.25 billion won. Applause spreads through the hall as the auctioneer congratulates the winner and moves on to the next lot. An old 8-bit computer is presented next, described as the machine a global tech founder used to write his first program in a garage. That item sells for 740 million won. After that, a cherry red sports car, once driven by a legendary actor until his death, is brought up for sale. Its price surges even higher, ending at 6.238 billion won. As the clapping continues, a man at one of the tables mentions that the item people have been whispering about is here tonight too. Another man asks if he is planning to make a move, but he brushes the thought aside and says he is only curious. He admits he has never even seen a photograph of it, and the other man says he heard the same rumor and believes it is definitely in this auction. At the front of the room, the host steps back into the light and announces the final item of the evening. He says it is the one everyone has been waiting for, and a restless murmur runs through the crowd. A cloth is pulled away, revealing a glass case beneath the stage lights. Inside it sits a grotesque piece titled Jahak No. 3. The audience is told that Jahak means self-destruction, and the room fills with uneasy whispers. The host presents it as the work of a serial killer who turned murder into art, then corrects himself and says it is more like art turned into murder. He declares that what stands before them is the original crime scene, preserved in the exact condition in which it was found. He warns the room that the custom cooling case must remain sealed at all times unless they want to watch it rot, and scattered laughter answers him. The woman recoils and asks if it is truly a real body. The man beside her answers with chilling calm and says that only the figure on the right is real. He explains that the one doing the strangling is the actual corpse. The figure being strangled is plaster cast from the strangler's own face after a mold was made from the corpse's head and attached to a separate plaster torso. Then he points out the real body's joints. He says rigor mortis locked them in place, so they were dislocated and reinforced with wire and steel pins to make the body hold that exact pose. The woman stares at the display in silence as the meaning of the sculpture settles in. At last, she says it looks like the figure is strangling himself. The man tells her that is exactly why it is called Jahak. He asks if she finds it disturbing, and her face tightens as she looks at the corpse again. She says it is revolting, but she cannot look away. With her eyes fixed on the display and her expression trembling between shock and awe, she admits that it is beautiful too. The host opens the bidding at once. Phones rise all across the hall and tapping begins from every direction. The sound builds fast as the numbers race upward on the screen. The price reaches 18.56 billion won, then climbs again in another violent burst. A bright flash cuts across the display as Jahak No. 3 reaches 23.1 billion won. By the end of the frenzy, the final piece sells for 23.1 billion won, about 17 million US dollars.